pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Board of Commissioners, public meeting Tuesday, June 19, 2018. The time is 7:40. Pursuant to the requirement of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, notice of this meeting was published on the December 14, 2017 issues of the Nutley Sun, the Herald News, and the Star Ledger. A copy of this notice has been posted on the Nutley Town Hall Bulletin Board, and a copy is on file in the Municipal Clerk's office. Commissioner Rogers.
Aye.
Commissioner Tucci is absent and excused. Commissioner Evans?
Here.
Commissioner Petracco?
Here.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Here.
All present, Mayor, except for Commissioner Tucci. He is absent and excused this evening.
We're going to skip on the agenda. We're going to go right to resolutions. Commissioner Tucci cannot be here tonight, but Commissioner Petracco is going to read the resolution honoring the girls' 7th and 8th grade softball team.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes. Excuse me on some of these names on here. I'll do my best. But Commissioner Tucci started calling me from 9 o'clock this morning because he really wanted to be here, but he was not feeling well today. And he called me right before the meeting and said, make sure you send all these young ladies and the coaches and the families the love and support that they deserve, because you guys have done an outstanding job. So Commissioner Tucci says thank you to you for making this town shine. Whereas the girls' 7th and 8th grade softball team has enjoyed an outstanding season, posting an overall record of 13 wins, and I think I'm reading this right, 0 losses, with a tribute, while outscoring their opponents by an incredible 189 runs to just 44 runs. Whereas the members of the girls' 8th grade softball team are Rebecca Echevarria. Close, Frank? Not bad, huh? Thank you. Rachel Echevarria, Mackenzie Albert, Nicole Lopez, Juliana Fazzo, Leah DeMeo, Nikki Sacchetti, Fallon Stokel, Sydney Hess, Kayla how is it? What? Giagetti, okay. Jen Gardner, Mia DiPiano, Isabel Sasanti, not bad. Victoria, not good. Victoria Rudnick. And whereas the head coach, Juan Echevarria, along with assistant coach Mike Garner and John Ciccoletti, worked tirelessly to train and guide these athletes. And whereas the members of the girls' 7th and 8th grade softball team are the Suburban Softball Division League champions for the first time since 1991, with a record of 13-0. And now, therefore, be resolved that the Board of Commissioners in the Township of Nutley, County of Essex, join with the citizens of Nutley to honor and congratulate the members and the coaches of the girls' 7th and 8th grade softball team for their exceptional efforts and accomplishments. I move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Before I vote, I want to congratulate you and thank you for making us a shining star. And parents, thank you so much. You know, not enough is said about the parents and the guardians of children who take so much time and so much effort in helping build the character of your children through these sports programs. So thank you very much. I vote yes.
Commissioner Evans?
I just want to say congratulations and wow, thank you for bringing home this title that's been away from us since 1999. Let's keep the trend going, and I just want to congratulate everyone for doing an exceptional job. Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Thank you. I'd just like to say the same thing I say all the time, is that it's the relationships that you foster on these fields that probably you girls will be spending a long time in the future together, and the parents, as well as all the friends and friendships that you make going to the games and traveling. I have to tell you, you know, when my kids were that age, it really was the best time of my life. You know, it's I still have kids coming in to the deli. I don't recognize them anymore, who they are, because now they're in their 20s. But just to get, you know, to say hello and keep in touch is great. You guys did a great job. You should be proud of yourself. 13-0 is an incredible record. Congratulations, and I vote aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Yeah, I usually say, the girls that you win with and you lose with and you laugh with and you cry with, it doesn't look like you guys did any losing or any crying. So those are the friendships that you forge over your time spent together on the field. And congratulations on your undefeated record. Aye. Have anything to give them? Picture. You have a banner? Right.
I really thought that was a Jackie joke.
Madam Clerk, whenever you're ready on minutes.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. We have executive session minutes for March 20th, 2018, May 1st, 2018, and May 15th, 2018.
Move the minutes.
I need a second.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
All right.
Commissioner Petracco?
I, except for May 15th, I abstain.
Thank you. Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
And that's it for minutes, Mayor.
Reports, Commissioner Petracco?
Yes, we have our, I think it's going to become a monthly report from Public Safety. Thank you.
Bills, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Bill list for June 19, 2018. Public Affairs, $119,043.23. Revenue and Finance, $2,534,822.88. Public Safety, $72,662.88. Public Works, $42,681.82. Parks and Public Property, $67,576.72. Water Utility, $327,057.02. Total payroll is $846,949.17. for a grand total of $4,010,793.72.
Move the bills.
I need a second.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers? Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
And that's it for bills, Mayor.
Public comment on agenda items only. Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mayor. All persons addressing the Board of Commissioners regarding community concerns should approach the microphone and provide their name and address for the record. Unless further time is granted by the Board, each person shall limit their address to 3 minutes. All remarks to the Board and its individual members must be addressed to the Mayor. The Mayor may defer citizens' comments to the appropriate member of the Board. Dialogue between citizens and others addressing the Board shall be allowed unless the Mayor or presiding officer, by the majority of the membership of the Board, shall determine that the interests of decorum and/or the expeditious conduct of municipal business are being adversely affected by such dialogue.
Anybody wish to address the Board of Commissioners on agenda items only?
On the agenda, okay, I'll be up for the salaries. I thought this was the salaries. I
We'll do a
apologize.
public hearing after that. Anybody would like to address the Board of Commissioners on agenda items only? Seeing none, let's move on to ordinance introductions. Ordinance number 3391, an ordinance providing for the reconstruction of the roadway on Harrison Street, Section 4, in the Township of Nutley, in the County of Essex, New Jersey, appropriating $346,605, therefore from a grant monies received from the New Jersey Department of Transportation for the cost thereof. I move that this ordinance be passed to a second reading, advertised in the Nutley Sun, together with the notice required by law, and that further consideration of said ordinance for final passage by the Board of Commissioners be held at a second reading on July 17, 2018. I move the ordinance.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Public hearing, ordinance number 3385, an ordinance to fix the salary of certain officers and employees on the Township of Nutley, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, effective January 1st, 2017. Would anybody like to be heard on ordinance number 3385?
Rory Moore, 462 Chestnut Street. Mr. Scarpelli, on page 8 of the ordinance, there's a section 2, section 3, there's a number of items with no dates.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Those dates in the first blank are May 1st, 2012. In the second blank space, it's May 1st, 2012. The end of that paragraph, section 3, December 31st, 2012. And in section 4, the date is May 1st, 2012.
Under section 4, am I to understand that we don't pay longevity anymore? Is that correct?
That's correct.
I've noticed that we'll stay with the title of Clerk 1, page 2. All departments have Clerk 1 status, but all of the payroll ranges are different. Is there a reason for that?
I'll speak for the board. It depends on, someone could be here, 40 years.
I understand the range, but they're all, usually it would be 30,000 to 60,000. Yes, the range could be anywhere in there. That's a given.
Each department schedules their own ranges.
And how do you determine that range?
Again, Mr. Moore, that's determined. Some of it's determined by the number of years that they're here. All right? If somebody started out at the low end at $30,000 or started whenever they started, and now have gotten 2% raises over the last 20 years, they're gonna move up the ladder.
I think we're missing a question. Either I'm not explaining it correctly or maybe you're not understanding it correctly. Usually, because I call the state of New Jersey, a Clerk 1 will go from, let's say, 30,000 to 60,000. So no matter what Clerk 1 you are, a Clerk 1 always has the same salary range. Here, the different. And I'm questioning, how do you get that difference? Because the state of New Jersey uses Clerk 1 with, and it's explained.
Mr. Moore, I can explain from my standpoint of my department. Let me smile for the camera and wave.
No, I can't hear you that.
Yeah, I understand. The whole idea of the Clerk 1 title, it's not a state of New Jersey title, it's a civil service title. It's a broad category. The state of New Jersey, under the state of New Jersey employees, can interpret that title the way they want to interpret that title. The title at a municipal level, in each municipality, is basically driven by the nature of the underlying work that a clerk would do. So as a broad category, we use the civil service title of Clerk 1, and then the work underneath that, the work assigned to that individual, based upon the quality of the work, the nature of the work, the extent of the work, will determine the nature of the range of that salary.
I call it civil service. They use a different reference than you do, but there is one. And according to their explanation, there should be, especially in a municipality, under the fact that we're a commissioner form of government, we're not Faulkner, that they should be stable, 30 to 60, whatever that range is going to be. Because technically, if you're clerk typist in the public safety, it's the same as a clerk typist in the health department.
Mr. Moore, I've had conversations with civil service about that, and at no time was I given any guidance from them, or do they have an opinion as to what the salary range should be for a given job. It's driven by the nature of the work. As it relates to your second part of your question in my department, I surveyed every municipality in Essex County as to what work, accounting-related jobs and accounting and finance-related jobs, those compliance-related jobs. I also looked at the 2018 Robert Half compensation study and analysis. Robert Half, which is a employment and compensation firm. They do hiring, but they do compensation studies, and they do benchmarking of salaries. So I don't arbitrarily say, oh, give this person this amount of money. I do it based upon what I do to investigate what those salary ranges are. And what I found, by and large, across the board, we're not the highest payers. In fact, in my department, I'm on the lower side of what those salaries are. And if I go to the Robert Half ranges and I look at similar ranges, they actually have a criteria in the back that says increase for the New York metropolitan area because of the cost of living here, increase those salaries by 25% because they do it on a national scale. So it's not arbitrary, it's not capricious. I want to assure you that for, at least in my department, I did a full review. I also had my salaries looked at by our independent auditor, Ray Sarinelli, to give me his perspective because his firm also looks at multiple municipalities that are outside of Essex County. So in order to come up with a salary range, it's very important to understand what the criteria is for the nature of the work. When you look across Essex County and you look at a Clerk 1 title or what someone is doing, the nature of that work, what comprises that work, how they do it, is very, very different. I've been trying to fill a payroll pension clerk's job that was vacated a couple months ago by an individual. I lost that individual to go to work for Bergen County doing a similar job for $75,000 a year. My salary for that individual was $45,000 a year. I couldn't compete with a $30,000 raise. I am trying to fill that job ever since, and so far I haven't been able to fill it because the people that are qualified to do that job want more money than what we're able to offer. As an example.
As an example. But if you also, and I'm not trying to digress, on your next ordinance, I believe it's salaried because the union, if you look at the salary of a laborer, just straight title laborer, in your union, you have it at a much higher salary than on the non-union side, you have it at a much lower salary. But under the state of New Jersey guidelines, a laborer is a laborer, and it's very limited, to what they can and can't do.
State of New Jersey guidelines or the collective bargaining agreement? You're talking about a union and union negotiations.
You have it in here. It's in the labor. It's attached to your next sheet.
In the next ordinance, which we're not talking about at this time.
No. I just wanted to give you an example because
I appreciate the point, but when you go into a comparison of what I just described against what you then negotiate with a union and what a union is willing to accept, it's a very different conversation.
I understand that.
I'm not part of it, but it's a very different conversation.
I understand that. I'm not trying to conflate the two. But if you look at a laborer, just by title, as a laborer, it's substantially higher as a union as a non-union. Why would you hire a non-union laborer? Because most union contracts will not want you to have a non-union laborer when you have a union laborer. That would cause an issue. But yet you have it here as a non-union. And they're all over the place as well.
In each department, there are people who are part of a union, and there are people who are not part of a union. And that's been that way for probably before I was born. But the simple fact is you will have titles of people who have different functions that are not part of the coverage under whatever that particular union is.
Mr. Moore, just going through the non-union, most of those laborers are part-time and seasonal or hourly. I didn't see one with the salary and the non-union.
There is a laborer.
Quickly,
I have it
I just
here.
went quickly through it.
I'm not going to belabor the point, but it was a laborer, one part-time, labor seasonal
So
under
they're
buildings and
part-time and
ground,
seasonal, which
page
is certainly
6.
much different than,
Could you see, is it possible, can you see the inconsistencies? This department's the same title, and usually a clerk is a clerk, and the tasks that you ask of a clerk are reasonably fixed. So if I'm in public safety or I'm in health, they're pretty much going to be doing the same thing.
Yeah, but the only thing, I understand your point, and I'm not missing your...
It's hard to hear you. I apologize. It's hard to hear.
Okay. I know the air conditioning makes it hard. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. I understand your point about a title, given its title, should have a similar range as long as the underlying work associated with that title is the same for each employee. If I was to unbundle the roles that I have in my department and basically say, this is what this clerk does, and only say that's only what you're going to do, and this is going to be the range, I would be adding more people. I'll give you an example. Tonight, I'm appointing an individual to be the municipal housing liaison, right, who will get a stipend for doing that work. The person who is doing that as a full-time job, right, was receiving, actually at a part-time, at full-time it was $63,000, at part-time it was $46,000, and this person's is accepting to do this work with a nominal stipend, which is within the salary range that is in this ordinance. It's not a stated individual salary. So within that range, it covers that additional work, as an example, right? I try to do, and all the commissioners try to look at, how do you bundle up a job to make sure it's full-time, make sure it's meaningful, avoid the added costs associated with individual bodies to unbundle them, so that we can maximize the value in our departments and to our town. By doing that in my department, when I took over, I had 18 people in the Revenue and Finance Department downstairs. Today I have fewer people downstairs. All right, so you just kind of go through it.
But I can appreciate what you're saying.
In other words, I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm just trying to basically say, is on the surface you could say, yeah, broadly do this, right? And then every range. And one of the things we could look at is figure out what is the maximum range for these individuals that would encompass all the jobs being bundled, and the individual salaries underneath would be different for each one of those employees, because they all wouldn't be at $40,000 and they all get 2%, because their underlying jobs would actually be different. So within a range, they would all be different.
But the only part that confuses me is under page 3, down the bottom, code enforcement, towards the bottom of the page, you see keyboard and clerk. Yes. And you see the salary there, and then you see clerk 2, which is very, very similar. If I understand what you're saying,
they have different jobs. Keyboard and clerk is a title.
It's a typist, and the clerk doesn't type.
No, it's not the nature of the work. It's a civil service title that person acquired. I'm recognizing the civil service title. So if you want to get into a discussion about titles and civil service and what an individual title means in protecting that individual from, for example, a layoff, it's called bumping rights, we can do that. That's all. I understand.
I'm not trying to belabor the point.
No, I'm just, but you're asking some very thoughtful questions, and I'm trying to be thoughtful in my response. When you look at some of these titles, they link to a civil service title. If a person is, in effect, a clerk, a keyboarding clerk as an individual title, right, and they have a previous title of clerk 2 or clerk 1, right, in a layoff, we might eliminate that role, and they would bump to the next position, and the person who's in that other role would be bumped and maybe terminated because of that action, or laid off because of that action. It just becomes very complex in understanding the titles. But in my case, when you point that out, I agree with it, because I originally was trying to make it all the same title, but I actually recognize the fact that there is an actual civil service title that I have to be compliant with.
To conclude, you're saying you're going to titles by civil service, but yet civil service has a salary range, but you say, I want to use the title.
Civil service does not have a salary range.
Civil service, when I call it civil service, had a title range, or I'm sorry, a salary range. They also specified.
Mr. Moore, I deal with civil service regularly, and they do not have salary ranges for the positions, for the titles that are part of their responsibility. They do not impose any salary ranges on municipalities.
No, they don't pose, no, but before, when I called DCA, they said there was.
There are no numbers associated with positions at civil service. If someone is telling you that, I would like to know who it is, because I will call them and speak to them, because I would like to know that.
I will do that.
I've dealt with someone. I feel free. You have my number and my email. Feel free to email me with the name of the person, because I'd like to call them, because we have never, in all my years of dealing with civil service, ever been advised there's any salary ranges for any of their civil service titles.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Anybody else wish to address the Board of Commissioners on ordinance number 3385?
Yes, hi, this is Amy Salento, 70 Newman Avenue. And just as a quick follow-up to what Mr. Moore was asking, if I just heard correctly, there's, say, annual 2% salary increases. I think that was just referenced. So over the years, 2% salary increases. But also, depending on someone's performance, their salary could increase. So last I checked, there wasn't a really clear updated employee handbook or employee manual. So are there annual salary or annual performance reviews that in somehow tie to salaries?
Do you want?
Sorry.
Do you want me to?
Sure, Commissioner.
I think there might be something in the police department. I'm not sure, but
We're always on constant review in public safety law of our employees.
Right, okay, so in the police department and public safety, you have a review process.
We do.
Yeah. I'm just curious, I thought I heard you say, Commissioner Evans, that there were the 2% salary increases, and then depending on someone's performance, they might have had a salary increase?
It wasn't. No, they get a 2% increase. If I have to adjust a salary range, it's because I have to adjust it because of a market condition is requiring me to do that, right? But it's not says that, hey, that the overnight adjustment pool is 2%, but there's also another pool that says I'm going to give out performance recognition that can accelerate someone's salary or a bonus associated with that. That we don't have that. That's not allowed.
So that's a separate pool?
There's no pool.
Oh, I thought that's what you're saying. There's
No,
a pool.
I said I don't have that.
Okay, so thank you for that. So is there an annual performance review process for anyone outside of public safety?
To my knowledge, no, there's not. There has never been a performance
Okay.
appraisal system.
So
procedure put in
I have two more questions then. Thank you for indulging me with that question. Two more questions. In terms of the base salary minimums and the base salary maximums, do we have any idea how many employees are at their maximum and that we're actually, we being the town of Nutley, and that's proposing an increase to the maximum because someone is at the maximum of the range today?
Yeah, I think each commissioner could address. And in my department, I didn't have anybody who was at the maximum of the range. What I did is I adjusted the ranges according to what the data that I accumulated, which I
Right.
previously said was looking at the Robert Half 2018 compensation benchmarking study, as well as surveying the other municipalities to see where salaries were. As I have to, in order, and part of the reason for doing that is that I have, for example, I have an open position, and I need the salary ordinance in place in order to be able to hire that person, because that's this salary ordinance creates the authorization to pay someone.
Right, and I understand in reference to the pension clerk in terms of
Yeah, as an example.
the differences or the variance between maybe what they could make elsewhere versus what the previous person might have been paid. So in terms of related to my question, are there ranges in this proposal that are being increased because someone's at the maximum, and in order to give them a 2% raise, we have to increase the range of their salary? So this would be independent of the Robert Half
I
survey?
have two.
Pardon me?
And I have two that have gone up, and that's not only due to any kind of percentage raise, it's also due to the longevity raise.
Okay, so thank you for that. So I want to state that longevity definitely can be a benefit and a bonus in terms of a person knowing their job, knowing the town, etc. However, if we have a very low turnover rate, which I think we do because we have very few advertised open positions, people stay in their job because of the benefits, the convenience, the hours, the enjoyment. So most companies aren't obligated to increase someone's range based on longevity just because they want to stay in the job for 25 or 30 years. I mean, often somebody moves and takes a different job that pays more if they want to make more, or they leave and they go somewhere else. So I'm not sure why the town is so obligated to make adjustments for people
Well,
just
we-
because they've been here a long
Just help me
time.
understand your point. Is that your opinion, or is that a fact from your background, your qualifications?
It's definitely from my background. I've worked for several public companies. I've also been on the board of a charity. And, you know, it is not a standard practice to just say, great, we're thrilled that you've been here for 25 years, but you haven't made a move to another job, so we're going to increase your salary. I mean, there's no obligation to do that, especially when we're in a crunch in terms of having a reduced tax revenue. So I'm not sure why we feel so obligated here in town to keep bumping people's salaries up.
Well, Ms. Salento, this Board of Commissioners eliminated longevity for all new hires in
Yes,
2012.
yes.
All right, so people who were hired under that longevity, and some of them were under contract at the time, they've kept that benefit. And that's one of the reasons we eliminated it back in 2012 for anybody new.
So in some cases, it's contractual, is what you're saying?
In some cases.
In some of the
yes.
cases, but not
When they-
all.
When they were hired.
Okay, thank you for that. I do have a question about the Department of Public Works and Water Teamsters Local Number 97. So on page 2 of that,
Well, we didn't get to that public hearing yet.
oh, that's not part of the salary
No.
thing here? Okay,
Next, that'll be
thank
next.
you. I'll come back up. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mayor, I'd just like to make a comment, if I may. Also, I just keep hearing this 2% all night long, and I'm a little fuzzy on that because I don't think everybody just gets an automatic 2% in town. I mean, I've negotiated police contracts over the year, my 10-year term, where they got a 0% increase as well. So I don't know, well, I don't understand, where's the 2% coming from?
That was an example.
Oh, just an example. But I will say this, it makes it difficult when you have binding arbitration in police and fire, and, you know, where they can't strike. And if they're able to get a raise, then it puts us in a position to be fair to the non-union workers that don't have that benefit of being part of a union. So I know the last 10 years of being on this board is that we do try to be fair to everyone, no matter if they're part of a bargaining unit or not.
Anybody else like to be heard on ordinance number 3385? Seeing none, move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Move the ordinance.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Ordinance number 3386, an ordinance to fix the salaries of certain officers and employees of Township of Nutley, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, effective January 1st, 2017. Anybody like to be heard on ordinance number 3386?
Okay, thank you. Amy Salento, 70 Newman Avenue. On page 2, section 3, payment of vacation time in advance may be made upon request in writing to the treasurer at least 1 month in advance of the pay period requested. Written request must be approved by the department head before submission to the treasurer. I'm curious, is that something we're obligated through a union contract?
I think that is obligated by a union contract. If someone has built up vacation time, and it's up to the department head if they grant that or not.
Okay, so it would be accumulated vacation time, which they would be entitled to take in advance.
Correct.
Okay, so just to confirm then, are they receiving that as separate vacation pay on top of the regular salary, such as like they've accumulated days and they're cashing it out versus carrying it forward?
That's correct. They would cash out those days.
Okay, so that might decrement the allocation for carry forward days that might be paid at someone's retirement?
Correct.
Okay, but just to confirm then, my question is, can they also withdraw money from their accumulated vacation bank?
No, there's no ability to say, I'm going to take money out of my bank and
Okay.
leave the days there. This has to be approved by the appointing authority, which would be the commissioner. And if someone does it, it's because they believe that it lowers our future liability because
Right.
it's paid out at the retirement base. But it
Right.
reduces the number of days and reduces the bank.
Okay, so that might be contractually obligated, but it doesn't look like we necessarily offer this to all employees,
Correct.
right? Okay, thank you.
Anybody else would like to be heard on ordinance number 3386? Seeing none, I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Move the ordinance.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Let's move, I skipped over Board of Commissioner announcements. Anybody have any announcements?
You know what I do, Mayor, my first announcement is I apologize to the Board of Commissioners. We actually lost a firefighter this past week, Ryan Lucas, and I have to tell you, it was he's a fine young man, and he's been on the job a couple years, and it was this an awful week last week, and he's a great firefighter, good young man, part of the Nutley community, and I'd like to have a moment of silence if we can. Thank you.
Mrs. Rubina, that was a moment of silence. That's, I'm sorry you couldn't hear that.
There's a couple more announcements I have.
All right, Commissioner.
We've been working on this resident parking, if we're going to go to these permits or what we're going to do, but my assistant, which I'll share with everyone, we have compiled a lot of information that I'll make copies of tomorrow and pass along to the Board of Commissioners. It's regarding the 2-hour parking. It's really starting to heat up. We're really getting a lot of calls at Public Safety about it. I think we have to move something forward, so tomorrow I'll send you the facts of that. I also, and I know the mayor has been working on this as well, I also had my assistant Sam Carrella call our county executive. Can you hear me now? I'm sorry. Let me move this microphone. How about now? Good? Thank you. The second thing is I asked my assistant to call Joe D., our county executive, today, because I know that traffic light on the corner of Center and Franklin has all lights stopping in the parking lot is really backed up. I have to tell you, anytime we call the county executive's office, he picks up, and he said that he will get right on that because that's a county light. So we've fielded many complaints, and I really want to thank Sam Corella for taking the lead on that because it's been overwhelming in public safety. The traffic has really been backing up. So to everybody watching in TV land as well, you know, that's being addressed, and we are working on it. The other thing that I have Mrs. Corella working on is the mailboxes outside here. I know in front of my store they changed all the mailboxes to slots now, so you can't put anything in. I've also fielded many complaints about the mailboxes being turned the wrong way here. Sam has reached out to the postmaster, and she contacted the maintenance department today, and hopefully they could get those mailboxes turned around. Because I think it's even a safety issue as well, because, you know, the parking is tight down here as it is, and now people have to actually stop, get out of their car, park, in order to walk around the mailbox. So when we had the street fair the other night, this summer celebration, I can't believe how many people came up to me about these mailboxes, so we are trying to move that forward as well.
That's great. The clerk's office in my department has been flooded with complaints regarding the fact that you can't drive up and drop your mail anymore, and that slot is so narrow. You know, you put if you have 8 pieces of mail, you got to put them in one at a time to get there. And we have some people that come with bushels of mail to that particular station.
So my understanding on that slot is that the snorkel that they had there, those are the mailboxes that people have been fishing in.
Oh.
And pulling stuff out, and they were, I don't know if you heard that about the security. So there's a security issue on what they're fishing out and what they can put in. So
What kind
that's
of
the
bait
reason
are they
that
using?
they've gone to the single slot.
What kind of bait are they using?
I don't know. But that's
incredible.
my understanding of why that's not just here. Those snorkel mailboxes are being eliminated everywhere.
And as we all know, there's no mailboxes left anywhere in town, and I'm fortunate enough to have one at the deli, so I stand out there all day long and explain to people how to put the mail in now, because that slot is very thin as well. Nobody knows how to use it.
I know I had trouble figuring out if it moved, and it didn't move. It's just a single slot. So,
But we are working on it, so thank you. That's all I have.
any other Board of Commissioner announcements? I just want to congratulate Commissioner Tucci and Commissioner Petracco on the Spring Fest. Great night, great weather.
That's awesome.
And also wish to invite everybody to our 4th of July festivities. That'll be on the 4th of July from 6:30 and so we light off the fireworks at dusk. But we have a meeting right before then, but it's the day before, so I want to make sure everybody knows about the 4th of July.
Mayor, I have one announcement. This past week, after almost 2 years of hard work between the commissioners here and the Department of Veterans Affairs and Father Tom Nicastro of St. Mary's Church, we were able, and may I also add Congressman Freelandheisen's office, we had one of a Korean War veteran be awarded a Silver Star. It's the 3rd highest military award that this country could give. This Korean War vet was a medic on Pork Chop Hill. I think many of us remember the movie Pork Chop Hill. It was a ferocious, vicious battle. A lot of Americans were killed. And Father Tom's father, this is the priest's father, was one of the heroes of Pork Chop Hill and ended up saving the lives of many of his soldiers. But he was never given the Silver Star. He was never given an award. He was given the Bronze Star by General Trudeau on the field. Well, Father Tom did a lot of research about his dad. He took that research to our office at the Military and Veterans Affairs Bureau. We forwarded it to Congressman Freelandheisen's office, and it ended up that after about 1.5 years, maybe close to 2 years, the Department of the Army awarded his father the Silver Star. We had a ceremony at St. Mary's Church. I believe 200 to 300 people showed up. It was very moving, and one of the things that I know Father Tom wanted, and you talk about a priest that prays to God and get his prayers answered, he wanted to make sure that his father was given the Silver Star, was awarded the Silver Star as long as his mother was still here, and she's still here. So she was able to see her husband get awarded that. Obviously, he had passed away since then. But Commissioners, thanks for participating in that. And I've said this all over and over again, the worth of that Bureau that we have collectively worked on and putting together certainly has paid big dividends to our veterans. And this was huge, folks. This was huge. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Congratulations to Father Tom's dad. Let's move to resolutions. Commissioner Evans.
Thank you. Be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Nutley, the County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that the Treasurer be, and she is hereby authorized to refund overpayments of tax charges in the amount of $6,245.91 for the accounts that are listed in this resolution. So move.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
Be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Nutley in the County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that the Treasurer be, and she is hereby authorized to refund overpayment of property taxes in the amount of $8,115.80 due to successful tax court judgments for the lots and blocks listed herein. So move.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
My last resolution is a resolution appointing the municipal housing liaison to pursuant to the Fair Housing Act. Whereas pursuant to NJAC 5:94-7 and NJAC 5:80-26.1, the Township of Nutley is required to appoint a municipal housing liaison for the admission of the Township of Nutley Affordable Housing Program to enforce the requirements NJAC 5:94-7 and NJAC 5:80-26. Whereas the Township of Nutley has adopted Nutley Ordinance 2932 entitled Fair Share Plan to provide for the appointment of a municipal housing liaison to administer the Township's affordable housing program. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Nutley in the County of Essex that Ceci Tramontana is hereby appointed by the governing body of the Township of Nutley as the municipal housing liaison for the administration of the affordable housing program pursuant to and in accordance with the code of the Township of Nutley. So move.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco? Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye.
Ceci, congratulations.
Congratulations, Ceci. Whereas raffle applications have been received from the following organizations: St. Mary's Catholic Church, license number 2018, on-premise 50/50 cash raffle, and license number 2118, on-premise merchandise raffle, to be held Friday, October 19, 2018, and the Rotary Club, license number 2218, off-premise 50/50 cash raffle, to be held Wednesday, September 12, 2018. Whereas the applications have been reviewed and approved by the municipal clerk and the police department, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Nutley, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that the aforementioned licenses are approved and the municipal clerk is authorized to issue the raffle license. I move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Be resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Nutley, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that the Township Clerk is hereby authorized to advertise for sealed bids for Harrison Street Roadway Improvement Project, Bloomfield Avenue and East Passaic Avenue in the Township of Nutley, to be received on behalf of the Board of Commissioners and Commission Chambers, Township Hall, 1 Kennedy Drive, Nutley, New Jersey, on Wednesday, July 11, 2018, at 3 p.m. prevailing time, which time they will be open and read. I move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco? Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Whereas the Township of Nutley advertised for proposals for marketing of recycled materials on March 17, 2015, whereas the requests for proposals for the marketing of recycled materials were accepted by the Township Clerk on May 8, 2015. Whereas the Township of Nutley reviewed and analyzed all submitted proposal, whereas a proposal received from Integrity Recycling and Waste Solutions, 111 Route 31, Suite 223, Flemington, New Jersey, was the most favorable proposal for the Township of Nutley. And whereas Integrity Recycling and Waste Solutions was recommended for a 3-year contract with 2 one-year options for contract extensions effective on July 1st, 2015, where the Township has selected to exercise its option for a 1-year extension, and whereas the term of the contract should be extended 1 year effective July 1st, 2018 through June 30, 2019. And whereas funds are available from account number T21909901 in the amount not to exceed $30,000 and have been certified by the Chief Financial Officer, said certification be attached to this resolution. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Nutley County of Essex State of New Jersey that a contract be awarded to Integrity Recycling Waste Solutions not to exceed $30,000 and that the mayor and the township clerk are hereby authorized to enter into and sign said contract for the Township of Nutley Board of Commissioners. I move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Whereas Nutley is a member of the Morris County Cooperative Pricing Council, whereas the Morris County Co-op awarded a bid for road resurfacing, contract number 6, Cat 5 granite and concrete vertical curb to Savelli & Son General Contracting, 881 Franklin Avenue, Nutley, New Jersey, for the period of January 1st, 2018 to December 31st, 2018. Whereas Nutley wishes to utilize the Morris County Co-op to install select curbs in various locations in Nutley, and whereas funds are available from account number G04104401 and ordinance number 3445A and have been certified by the Chief Financial Officer, said certification be attached to this resolution. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of Commissioners Township of Nutley County of Essex State of New Jersey that a contract be awarded to Savelli & Sons General Contracting not to exceed $10,000 and that the mayor and township clerk are hereby authorized to enter into and sign said contract for the Township of Nutley. I move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Whereas the 4th of July, also known as Independence Day, is a national holiday celebrated annually commemorating the adoption of the Declaration of Independence, whereas the Township of Nutley, in observance of Independence Day, will be hosting 4th of July activities and a fireworks display on or about Wednesday, July 4th, 2018, and whereas Garden State Fireworks, P.O. Box 403, Millington, New Jersey, is the vendor performing the fireworks activities for the Township. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Nutley County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that the Township authorizes the discharge and use of fireworks by its vendor on or about July 4, 2018, with a rain date for the next clear night. I move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Whereas the New Jersey Department of Treasury Division of Taxation has provided tax clearance certificates for each establishment listed below for the renewal period, whereas these establishments have been inspected by the Board of Health, Fire Department, Code Enforcement Department, and the Police Department of the Township of Nutley and are in satisfactory condition. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Nutley, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that the renewal of plenary retail consumption license, plenary retail distribution licenses, and club licenses be granted for the following licensees effective July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. Be it further resolved that the municipal clerk be and she is hereby directed and authorized to issue said licenses for the license period July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019 for those establishments listed below. I move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Whereas bids for the 2018 various roadway improvements were received and opened on Wednesday, May 30th, 2018, whereas D&L Paving Contractors, 675 Franklin Avenue, Nutley, New Jersey, was the low bidder, and whereas the base bid for the 2018 various roadway improvements was in the amount of $216,514, and alternate bid number 1 in the amount of $31,062.27, for a total bid of $247,576.27. And whereas funds are available from account number G04113401, ordinance number 3295A in the amount of $37,486.09, and account G04104401, ordinance number 3345A in the amount of $210,090.18, and have been certified by the Chief Financial Officer. Said certification be attached to this resolution. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of Commissioners, Township of Nutley, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that a contract be awarded to D&L Paving Contractors, 675 Franklin Avenue, Nutley, New Jersey, not to exceed $247,576.27, and that the mayor and township clerk are hereby authorized to enter into and sign said contract for the Township of Nutley. And move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. This resolution authorizes the Township of Nutley to sign an NJDEP Treatment Works Approval Permit application for the change in use of the sanitary sewer system to Building 123A, 340 Kingsland Street, Nutley, New Jersey, 07110. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of Commissioners, Township of Nutley, County of Essex, State of New Jersey, that Dominic Ferry, licensed sewer operator, is hereby authorized to sign the applicable certification and consent sections of the NJDEP Treatment Works application on behalf of the Township of Nutley. Move the resolution.
Second.
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. That concludes the business portion of our meeting. Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mayor. All persons addressing the Board of Commissioners regarding community concerns should approach the microphone or provide their name and address for the record. Unless further time is granted by the Board, each person shall limit their address to 5 minutes. All remarks to the Board and its individual members must be addressed to the Mayor. The Mayor may defer citizens' comments to the appropriate member of the Board. Dialogue between citizens and others addressing the Board shall be allowed unless the Mayor or presiding officer or the majority of the membership of the Board shall determine that the interests of decorum and/or the expeditious conduct of municipal business are being adversely affected by such dialogue.
Anybody wish to address the Board of Commissioners this evening?
Yes. Tammy Rossi, 28 Colonial Terrace. 2 meetings ago, Commissioner Evans, you cited developer fees collected for the years 2014, 2015, 2016, and 2017. Would you be able to repeat those fees collected?
I'm sorry, speak louder.
The developer fees. 2 meetings ago, you cited developer fees collected by the Township of Nutley for years 2014, 15, 16, and 17. Would you be able to cite those fees again?
I don't have the form in front of me this
Okay.
evening.
Okay, that's fine. For what reason did you not correct me previously when I voiced my concerns regarding the town not collecting developer fees? I had been mentioning this at Board of Commission meetings going back since this past December, and nobody said anything. And in fact, I won't name names, but one of the parties up there had actually admitted to me that the town was not collecting developer fees. So I'm just wondering, how come all of a sudden there are numbers present?
So what are you suggesting?
I'm trying to understand why.
You're implying something, so I'm trying to be clear.
There was an Oprah request submitted for developer fees, and the response, I think it was for 2016, no records existed. And now they
That's
exist.
not true.
So, okay, well, I can show you a copy of that Oprah request. So I'm just trying to understand.
No, sure. First off, in order for each property that's subject to a fee, residential, non-residential development fee, the form, the bill, the actual bill is created by the tax assessor. Okay? That is then given to the construction office, who, in order to actually issue a CO on the building, has to collect that fee. That fee is then deposited into the co-ed trust account. So there is a process. Those fees are there. There's deposits into those accounts. The bank statements show that. So and for those years, I'm not quite sure that I would understand why anyone upstairs with knowledge of it would make that statement. If they're not close to it and don't understand that a developer fee is in reality a COA fee. So if they understood it that it was a COA fee and not a developer fee, they may have made that statement in error. But there definitely bills have been made up, collections have been made, deposits have been provided.
Oh, so you do have records of those, all of those?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
okay.
There is an Oprah request that's actually pending that we haven't responded to yet to provide the bills for 15, 16, 17, and I believe part of 18, as well as the payments. So it's actually working across multiple departments and getting into a record. It would be easy to provide a deposit ledger that shows the actual deposit, but when you're actually going back to the individual source documents, they're not filed in a sort of COA file. They're filed actually by the lot and block of the individual that was assessed. So it's actually going back to the history of records on each property to accumulate that. So it's taking more time, and I apologize for that, but those records are definitely available.
Okay, great, thank you. The BOC has been, this is my next question. The Board of Commissioners have been tasked with reviewing recommendations by the Planning Board regarding mixed use and density. This has been going on for 10 years. Tonight I ask you, are you prepared to make a decision to accept or deny the recommendations by our Planning Board regarding definition of mixed use and density, yes or no?
Ms. Rossi, the Planning Board Subcommittee came at the last meeting and presented to us. We are now considering what portion of that, or all of that we're going to consider and have to change the ordinance. So there'll be an introduction and a public hearing on that.
Okay. My hope is in the future, Nutley will have an efficient form of government to address and resolve these types of issues in a more timely manner. 10 years is a very, very long time for something like this to be resolved. And in the interim, we've had developers getting every variance approved, and the overbuilding in town is well known amongst the citizens in town. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to address the Board of Commissioners this evening?
Rory Moore, 462 Chestnut Street. Ms. Tangora, at the last meeting, the last thing she said that she implied that you should adopt the recommendations as written, and I hope they don't. Will the citizens be able to have any input? Because in the back room...
Mr. Moore just said we're going to have it'll be an ordinance introduction, right? And so people will be able to comment on that during the public comment on agenda items only, and then we'll have a public hearing on the ordinance.
It's already written at that point, so whatever the public says, it's already written.
Doesn't mean we have to pass it.
My concern is, in the back room, when everybody was explaining it, you were talking about 3-bedroom apartments at $3,500 a month as part of this introduction. Now, everybody I've spoken to, then nobody's going to sell their house to rent an apartment for $3,500. And I have a funny feeling that people might want to express an opinion about that. I understand the process, but at the process, if you find out a number of people do not want that, is it going to be changed?
Mr. Moore, we haven't gotten that far at this point. I mean, I don't know what else to say to you.
My only concern is that I know that when Mr. Jennen Temple writes it, prepares the ordinance, it's going to be presented as an ordinance, and you're going to vote as an ordinance. But if
We'll have an introduction.
Yes.
The public will have time to comment it on then, and then we'll have a public hearing, just like we had on the ordinances
at
today.
this point, it's written. The public hearing, it's written. You're going to vote yes on it because of the ordinance.
Mr. Moore, just a question. The recommendation that we're evaluating comes to us from the Planning Board that actually goes through a public hearing process when they're actually crafting their recommendation.
They had one?
Absolutely.
They did? Wow, I didn't know that. Because
Well, it's
I
Planning
don't
Board.
remember. I
Planning
remember
Board.
that everybody talking about it, but
Planning
nobody
Board,
was a
in
public
order
hearing.
to do that, there was a public discussion on that, and there was a vote of the Planning Board to make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. I don't know why it took the Planning Board so long to take up a recommendation to investigate that, because actually it was also proposed by the Code Enforcement Office as well to clear up the code earlier. A change in government wouldn't change the Planning Board, right? So
Imagine
my point is there is a process of an autonomous board that's separately governed that makes that recommendation to us. Now that we received it, the first thing that we did is we held a discussion, a public discussion, on what the terms are of that ordinance. All right? And I will tell you that this board has questions about it, about not actually making it more liberal, actually making it more stringent. And we want to understand more in depth, and specifically I do. I want to understand more in depth from a competent planner, right, to understand what the implications are, to consider, what are the factors? Because when you put an ordinance on the books, it's not to take care of today, it's taking care of what the future expectations are. So you have to actually be thoughtful about that process. So since it's been before this board, right, we've been going through that process. And as the mayor said, once we go through that, we will have an ordinance introduction. there's a period of time between the introduction, where it's made public, and the actual public hearing on that document, where the public can actually come to actually a meeting or reach out to any of the commissioners to make their points known once it's introduced, because it doesn't get introduced and adopted on the same night. It's actually introduced and it's available for, I think, 45 days before it's actually on the agenda. So
it was 30, that's okay.
30, it might be 30. Yeah,
30 days.
there's at least two meetings. You got to wait 2 meetings to give people time to look at that, right? So I understand your point, but there's ample opportunity to address any concerns that would be raised once that is made available to the public to look at.
See, my confusion comes in when you said there was a public hearing at the meeting. There wasn't. All they said is they're going to hand off to the commissioners their recommendations. They never said their recommendations. Nobody ever saw them until they presented it to you in the back room.
That's not true.
That's
Mr.
not true.
I was there.
That was a planning board meeting.
I don't remember 3-bedroom apartments anywhere.
And there's no recommendation in there for 3-bedroom apartments.
Mr. Mecca was talking about that's the hottest thing in the block that people.
Mr. Mecca was not participating in that
Okay.
meeting.
All right, okay.
No, he wasn't. I'm
So
serious.
the reason I'm asking.
Actually, you would be referring to, I think, one of the planners who made a comment. Mr. Mecca was not there.
The reason I'm asking is because I understand through different sources that Hoboken is going to build approximately 6,000 apartments. Now, I know somebody on the board down there, and they were telling me what they get in their apartments in comparison to what we get here. They're one train stop away from New York City, which is the ideal commuter we're looking for. But down there, they have Ubers, they have city bikes out there, they have a park on top of a roof. They offer so much more for apartments, so they're more attractive. So when I heard that meeting in the back, Hoboken sounded so much better, and that was my concern.
I appreciate your concern, but we, as a board, are considering that recommendation, and I assure you, it doesn't include 3-bedroom apartments.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to address the Board of Commissioners this evening?
Amy Salento, 70 Newman Avenue. So just a quick follow-up on this topic about density and the number of apartments and development. I raised an issue at a joint Board of Commissioners Planning Board meeting earlier this year. I think it might have been March. And I asked, pardon me?
February 28th.
February 28th, thank you. I was looking through my calendar, but I couldn't find it. Anyway, I asked about some of the buildings in terms of the plans that were approved either by the planning board or the zoning board, depending on the project, and indicated that I had personally seen in one instance that an approved building at 184 Franklin Avenue for 1-bedroom apartments, that there were 2-bedroom apartments in existence being rented and being advertised by the developer. Additionally, I believe that some of the other buildings from that specific developer, what's been built and what gets rented out does not match the plans. So there's a couple of things. In some cases, there's a density issue, but again, the density rules maybe are not so clear. But on the other side, a zoning ordinance related to certificates of occupancies, violation and penalties, there are violation penalties, $250 to no more than $500, or imprisonment not to exceed 90 days, or both. Each and every day that such violation continues shall be considered a separate and specific violation of this chapter. So I did inquire with our township attorney, Mr. Genatempo, how would a citizen request an investigation? And apparently there is an investigation going on.
Absolutely.
So can you please speak to that? And I ask that that not
Yeah.
be deducted from my time. Thank you.
The specifics around that, and it is actually subject to potential litigation, so there's only so much that I can tell you, but here's what I will tell you. First and foremost, no one is above the laws in Nutley. I don't care who you are. And once we find out, and when we find out, because this individual does have violations, he's among many who do. We find the violations in town all the time. And
Sure.
some people find themselves in municipal court. Some people find themselves, getting notice of the violation and removing what they put in as they're required to do. So one, my office, me as a commissioner, this Board of Commissioners will not tolerate that ever. And so to your point, you raised that point on February 28th.
Thank you.
All right, a review was begun, and every single property that individual owns has been subject to a full inspection. The inspection was comprehensive. It included the original planning plans that were submitted before either the planning board or the zoning board. It included the actual sealed construction plans, and then a physical inspection of every room in in each building was inspected to determine whether or not it was in compliance with what the approvals were granted for that particular situation, including the parking spaces as well, which wasn't raised. But the point is, we did a comprehensive review to see, are you in compliance? To the extent that we have noted violations, those violations are being addressed with the Township Council, with that individual's council. The position of my department and of the Board of Commissioners is violations that are identified go along the same basis as everybody else. You remove it or take a shot at going to the Board of Adjustment to see if you can leave it as built. Over the years, some people have done that and they've been successful, but we will not tolerate that. So to your point is a comprehensive review has been done. Those violations have been identified. They've been provided to our council and they've been provided to the other person's council, and there are discussions underway right now.
So thank you for that. In terms of these violations that have been noted, apparently they're not being made public because you're handling this between our council and their council?
It's subject to litigation.
Okay, so presumably that's costing the Township of Nutley money to pay, whether it's Mr. Genatempo or his firm or another firm, for the litigation.
Right.
So who absorbs those costs?
This person will.
And what's happening with the
town will not
fines?
incur, let me be very, very clear. The township will not incur or absorb any cost associated with this. All those costs will be borne by the applicant. And the reason for that is anybody who feels as though that they can go around our laws, our rules, or what they've been accepted, and want to make it very clear to anybody and everybody that you will be found out, and when we do, we have a small department, so it might take us time, but when we do, you will be subject to a violation. You have the opportunity to correct the violation. You will be subject to a summons, and you'll find yourself in court.
And I appreciate that. So up to $500 a day in fines, that's an awful lot of revenue for the Township of Nutley. So is there an opportunity for the Township of Nutley to recoup that much money? This builder, this developer, has been renting these apartments, $2,000 a month approximately, collecting that rent and pocketing it. That money has not been coming to the town of Nutley.
Yes, so the individual who has absorbed that rent, he has that ability, obviously, to keep a portion of that rent. There's no vehicle that says you shouldn't have collected that rent, so therefore pay it all to the Township of Nutley. That doesn't exist. There's no ability to do
But
that.
$250 to $500 a day in fines
Absolutely. And when
certainly adds up to over $2,000 a month very quickly.
Absolutely. In fact, the numbers that are in my mind are into six figures.
Okay, so thank you for sharing that. I will ask in terms of the oversight of the department, clearly if this happened, I can assume that maybe an employee had some sort of involvement in this. And
That would be an incorrect assumption.
so this was all done without any knowledge of any employee in the town of Nutley?
We many times will have a two-family house where the individual converts the basement into an illegal third apartment.
I understand.
Right?
A two-family house is a very different situation than
Well, I will
a
disagree
building.
with you. I will disagree with you. We have the ability under our code for multifamily dwellings that when you have a change of tenancy, that you can do a CO inspection, and that's when we find out most of the time, on any size, by the way.
Absolutely, and there
That's how
have been changes in
and-
tenants in
and
these
we-
buildings.
And we find that out. And so to the extent that they have missed something, that's been corrected. The administrative procedures have been changed. Individuals have been changed in their roles, right? We don't tolerate it. So
And I appreciate that. So there have been changes in the department, and then in terms of oversight of that department, what are the enhancements or the assurances that this is not going to happen again?
Well, I don't think there's ever an assurance that it won't happen again. Somebody can do this, but we do have a couple things. One is I have a field inspector whose his job to go out and identify these areas of violation, going around for physical observation, looking at a building that has an extra doorbell where it's not supposed to be, or there's a significant amount of parking which might raise questions associated with what might be going on a particular property. When you look at a larger building where you have an internal space that has been converted to like an extra apartment, and the one you identified, right? The apartment that was identified had one person in it. So there's no extra buildup. There's nothing obvious that inspector would see. So when we do catch them, and we're not necessarily equipped to employ the manpower necessary to do it as quickly and as timely as everybody would like, but we do them. And I will tell you is that whatever happens, right, whether we find it out that day, the next day, or several months later, it's identified. And as I told you, the procedure is that violation notices are issued. They have an opportunity to remove it and fix it, or they have to go before a board, which is the Board of Adjustment, to leave it as built if they so choose. If they refuse the fines on a UCC violation, it's a $2,000 fine. On a zoning violation, as you were reading, it's $250 a day up to $500 a day, and that's actually imposed in the court. We issue a summons associated with that. In this particular case, it is one individual. Because of the scale of the things that we found, it's with counsel, and it's going through a legal discussion on the ramifications of it.
Okay, so aligned with that, since this is litigation, I believe that the town should become much less friendly to this developer.
The township is not friendly to the developer.
Well, the developer presents plans, they're generally approved, they proceed to build, and they don't have to comply with the laws until they get caught.
Every applicant before the board, right, rarely goes through the board getting their plans approved as submitted. And this developer never got a set of plans approved that were submitted. The Board of Adjustment or the Planning Board representatives go through a very thorough review and a comprehensive challenge with expert testimony, expert witnesses on both sides, because it's a quasi-judicial process where they go through that. It's not, this Board of Commissioners doesn't say, wow, wouldn't it be great to have a 30-unit building here, and say, oh, gee, would you do me a favor, build that?
I'm not in any way implying that. What I'm saying is that if a developer has consistently not complied with ordinances, with zoning laws, they should have a period where they cannot build in this town. If I were caught drunk driving, I would have a period of paying a fine, possibly serving jail time, possibly serving community service, and most likely losing my driving privileges in the state of New Jersey for a period of time, and most likely paying additional insurance when I am licensed.
I don't think they're necessarily comparable. There are laws in place that govern what you can and cannot do. I will tell you that this particular builder, if he was to submit a plan before any of the boards, would have a very hard time getting an approval, given what we have learned in the process. So to your point is, I don't think anyone has ever given this builder carte blanche to build whatever he wants.
Not suggesting that.
Right, but I'm just being clear. I want to be clear to you. But I also believe is that the independent representatives of those boards would basically give this individual a very, very hard time in order to get approval on anything that he would submit before this time.
So thank you very much, Commissioner Evans. In terms of the field inspector that's been hired, what are the person's qualifications?
Oh, sure.
Was there an RFP? Will that person be on top of every step?
That person wasn't hired now, and yes, the individual is qualified. There's actually inspector certifications, and he has what they call level 3 certifications, so the highest certifications.
Okay, thank you. So in terms of this particular developer and the project that started recently at the corner of Bloomfield and Center. What will be different in this process in terms of rough inspections, final inspections,
Absolutely.
COs, tenant COs, business certificates of occupancy, i.e. business licensing for the retail?
Sure. Under the Uniform Construction Code, right, all of the inspections have to comply with those codes as they do for would do on that building as they've done on every building, right? There's no exception to saying it's okay, right? There's guidelines and there's under the Uniform Construction Code, which is a state code. They have to comply, and they go through those inspections. The final, the intermediate steps, which is the framing inspection and the electrical inspection, plumbing inspection, all of those things occur, right?
Yes.
And the people that are doing those inspections have been doing those inspections for 25 plus years. They're very competent, they're very thorough when they do that. When you
Absolutely.
ultimately get to the end of the building and there's the final, what they call CO inspection, every room, every door with the plans is looked at. What happens after we leave, if something happens after we leave, that's where the risk occurs.
And I understand that. And so, just to be clear, I'm standing here as a representative of the citizens of Nutley, the townspeople, the taxpayers. I'm asking these questions because clearly something had gone wrong for an extended period of time. And it's very disappointing. I'm glad changes have been made. Possibly an employee is going to receive a full pension without any punishment for their involvement in this situation. And that's disheartening. My tax dollars have gone to paying someone who was complicit in a developer breaking the law.
I would
Potentially.
be careful about saying complicit. I'm not aware of any complicity. I would say someone who didn't do their job thoroughly, maybe. But
Okay.
being complicit, I would object to that.
And I appreciate everything that you've outlined. So in terms of further information on this, in terms of the litigation, fines, potential court, how will that be shared with the townspeople of Nutley?
That will be with council. I can't comment on that
Okay.
tonight, but my expectation is that once it's clear, I think we reach the destination on this, people will understand very clearly that you just don't do this in Nutley. Because
Right, and I appreciate that. And I hope that the message gets sent and that people are going to understand that they don't have carte blanche anymore.
you said that anymore. No one's had carte blanche ever. The point
Well,
is,
that developer has had carte blanche. They have done whatever they wanted
Not
until
such-
they were caught.
yes, but to what you're implying is that they've done that with knowledge, right? People do these things outside of our office in the township all the time. It doesn't mean that we have knowledge of it and we
Sure.
ignore it. When we find out about it, as we did in this case, as you came to a meeting and said, hey, I looked at this and I found a two-bedroom apartment there. That launched an immediate investigation. And for this individual, and you raised one building, it would have been very easy to simply say, okay, let's go look at the building and issue fines for the two bedrooms. We didn't do that.
I appreciate that.
We went through every single building.
And I appreciate that because
So
one
I-
of those properties has apartments in a lower level when they're just supposed to have a basement. So you've talked about how someone might add a third apartment on a lower level in a residence, but this developer blatantly added actual living space exceeding whatever was approved in terms of density, in terms of taxes being paid. So that's my last question related to this. Will the taxes, will there be a clawback, or I should say a reach back, for the years that this developer has been paying taxes on fewer apartments or on lesser or smaller apartments?
Ellen, can I comment on that?
Will that be part of the settlement?
All right. So
I'm
specifically...
sorry, Mr. Genetempo, you're saying we'll have to look into that? I didn't hear you.
Just from a legal question, should we be able to answer that under the circumstances?
Oh,
All right, so
Thank you.
you're referring to additional apartments on 113 East Center Street, is that
I
correct?
believe that's the building. I've only
Correct.
been in it once.
18 units that were across 4 buildings. Permits were issued, application was submitted, it was reviewed, right, and permits were issued. The builder did not, in that case, do that behind closed doors or do it as illegally, right? There were permits issued, there was inspections, and taxes were assessed on those buildings. When we went through the review and went back and looked at that, an identification was there was an issue, right, that was missed as part of that review when it was initially interpreted at the time that it was allowable back in 2000, I think it's 2015, right?
Okay.
So and that's the matter of litigation, because once you find out about that, the determination is that for those 18 units, you need to go to the Board of Adjustment to address it. If you're not willing to go to the Board of Adjustment, you need to go to court. And if you're not willing to go to court, that's where it is right now, and wherever they decide where they want to go, we'll address those issues. And yes, the fact is that we have been collecting taxes, so taxes haven't been ignored on that. But, right, while that was done, right, there is a question about whether or not there was a miss in that evaluation at that time, right? And what do we do about that? And there's a lot of legal stuff on both sides that's being evaluated by council and how you need to address that. Whatever that determination is, it will be incorporated into whatever direction we take to send a clear message. But I want to be clear with you that permits were actually issued for those units. That wasn't done carte blanche, as you said.
Okay, and I appreciate that. Again, I did not go back and do my own review because I am a citizen and I didn't anticipate that I would need to do an investigation. I am pleased to hear that an issue I raised and a question I raised at a public meeting has had follow-up, and that there will be fines, settlements, et cetera, and revenue back to the town of Nutley.
Absolutely. Just, Amy, to your point is, to do the review that we did, we easily could have answered your question in 2 days.
I understand.
Said, yeah, do that. But we didn't do that. We always take the position is we're someone who owns multiple locations. It's a must. It's a requirement. Got to go look at everything. And
Exactly. I hope we're looking at the buildings that builder has built that he might not be owning as well. I'm just saying. I mean, there's a wanton disregard by that builder for what the law is and what's been approved by the town of Nutley. I'm talking about the builder.
Well, it's the owner's responsibility, but I understand your point.
Thank you. I do have some other questions. I realize this has been a lot of time, but if you can indulge me, I will just ask, I will mention one thing related to budget and expenses. In looking at the 2017 user-friendly budget, for lack of a better term, I think that's what it's called.
I think that's a colloquialism.
Right, and it is much easier to read, yes, thank you. So the overall township overtime is 4.1% in that budget, just calculated by me based on salaries. So overtime line item versus the salaries, it's 4.1%. I would be curious about your reviews, Robert Half, other municipalities, et cetera. Where does Nutley fall in terms of the overtime budget? I don't know where that budget target is for 2018. I know there was a budget hearing and there was information, but I didn't actually see an overtime line item because I think that it was, again, that less user-friendly version. So it's something that I would like to know more about. And then I would specifically like to know, and Mayor, this is really addressed to you specifically. When I was here in January and February, so the 26th of January, the 6th of February, I referenced that the water department overtime was over 50%. And there was reference to a number of water main breaks. I think you quoted the number. Some of them are listed in your reports that were filed at a previous meeting. I didn't print everything out. But specifically, March 23rd, April 20th, May 4th, and today's report in terms of overtime, the water department overtime for those 4 pay periods exceeds 20%. Now, we're in spring / now into summer. There were 2 other time periods where it was a little bit less than 20%. I'm just curious, how do we continue to have a department that has such a high percentage of overtime?
As I explained before, Ms. Salento, The water department is a 24/7 operation. Their overtime is some of it where they're on call. So it's not all just where they're fixing repairs. But for instance, on Franklin Avenue, we had a fire hydrant that was leaking. You can't do those during the day. You can't
Sure.
close Franklin Avenue down, so they have to be done at night. So you have those kind of issues where there is extra overtime because of that.
So, in looking at that, I really would ask that the town look at how employees are scheduled. If we know that someone has to be on call, is there any way to change the scheduling? And honestly, the fact that being on call gives someone time and a half is fascinating to me.
It's not that they don't get time and a half on their...
Well, it says overtime, I'm sorry.
But overtime's not necessarily time and a half. It's just in addition to their regular pay.
Okay, so even though in some of these ordinances it says overtime is time and a half, anything over 40 hours per week, that's not necessarily
It's
the
not
case.
necessarily true.
So on-call time is potentially paid at a different rate.
It is paid at a different rate.
And is it paid at their regular rate, or is it paid at less than their regular
Paid
rate,
at
or
the
more?
regular rate on a per-hour basis for the number of hours they're on call.
Okay, I
That's
find
straight.
that to be a considerable challenge. If you're on call and you never get a call, you're still living your life and you're getting paid your regular rate to just
Ms.
possibly
Salento,
take a
these
phone call?
issues are collective bargaining agreement issues.
Okay.
And, they are the much bigger picture. They're not like the commissioners just decide, okay, you get it, or you get it, or you don't get it. It's part of the collective bargaining agreement. It's required. It can be something that can be renegotiated, but those opportunities have to be taken when the renegotiation comes
And
up.
they're
Right.
not getting paid for all the hours they're on call.
Okay. Thank you for that. I don't think any of that is detailed. And listen, I don't want to get into every single contract, but I don't think that our public safety officers, many of them I assume are on call. If they're needed, they're going to be called in. But I don't think we're paying them just to be potentially on call, which I appreciate. We're paying them for the hours they work, I believe.
But we also have 24/7 the police department's on the street 24/7.
This is true. This is true. Well, I have some
This-
other questions, but in the interest of time, I'm happy to hold them for a
Thank-
future meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to address the Board of Commissioners this evening?
Good evening, Mike Evangelista, 283 Chestnut, Apartment E is in Edward 1, NHS class of 1964, and hello again to Uncle Vito.
How are you doing, Michael?
Okay. I'm here tonight as a private citizen, but I'm also a member of a group called New Jersey 11 for Change, and I've been involved in an email exchange with the mayor about a request to have NJ11 participate in a get out the vote effort at the Nutley Farmers Market. And after consulting with the town attorney, his response was that he wanted to avoid public confusion and any appearance of promoting a political organization or a cause. NJ11, although initially organized as a super PAC, has converted several months ago to a 501c4. They've never endorsed a candidate or a party, so I'm not sure what the township's reasoning is for objecting to what would be simply a get out the vote effort. I mean, that's our most important
Mr.
obligation.
Temple,
as
do
a
you want to
citizen.
address that, or you want me to?
Sure. Mr. Evangelista, we've had a long discussion about this and looked into it. The problem is, where do you draw the line, okay? And I understand what you claim is the purpose of your group and your 501c3. You did have a history of having a PAC that's a little bit obviously more political than you claim that you are now.
Endorsed anybody, right?
I understand that you don't have to be endorsing a candidate to be apolitical. So I don't think the commissioners are going to be able down the road to draw the line between the farmers market or the festival or some other event. And then, so if one is allowed, they're all going to be allowed. And I think the whole idea is to make this not political. Whether or not you believe that get out the vote, maybe the townspeople will say, hey, the mayor is using this event to get people to sign up to vote to bolster his reelection campaign. And that's unfair. So I think no matter which way you slice it, I understand your passion to want to do it. I don't think personally, and as the attorney, that it's something that should be allowed, because you don't know, they're not going to know where to draw the line on any future requests or endorsements. events. So that is the purpose for it. It's not to stifle, to get out the vote. You know, you have a right to do that in other locations and in other opportunities. And I don't think, some commissioners don't have events like the farmer's market and may not have the opportunity to have people. I'm not saying they're going to sign up and vote just for Mayor Scarpelli, but you understand my point, I'm sure.
I understand your point. How do you reconcile that with holiday parades, which are supported by the town, in which politicians routinely march?
Well, holiday parades and all the holiday celebrations are non-denominational. They've been that way for years. There's case law that talks about what should be allowed, and the commissioners march in them. It doesn't mean they're endorsing anything or taking a political stand. I think that's I think that's two different arguments that you're making. So my opinion was given to the mayor. I don't have any reason to want to change my opinion. I think it's a solid opinion, and that's the one that the commissioners have decided to follow.
Okay, but as a private citizen, I'm perfectly allowed to do that, right?
Allowed to do what?
If I wanted to go to the farmer's market and pass out information that's readily available to the public on the website, on the government website, I would be within my rights.
As a private citizen, if you walk through yourself, you might be able to, but you're not going to be endorsed by the commissioners.
Well, I'm not asking for an endorsement.
You asked me a question, I'm trying to answer it. You're not going to be endorsed by a commissioner or by the event itself. You're a private citizen, you can walk, it's a public event. I'm not suggesting that you're to be stifled, but if you're asking for official endorsement or space, my understanding is you were looking for approval from the commissioner to set up a stand or set up a table to set up your particular 501c3 during this event. And I don't believe that's appropriate. As a citizen, you have other rights. I'm not your lawyer. You have every right to find out what your rights are, but I don't disagree with you completely on that. But I think as an event, as a group, yes, I do believe it's inappropriate.
Okay, I accept your answer. I'm disappointed, but I accept it. I'll see you at the farmer's market.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Evangelista. Anybody else wish to address the Board of Commissioners this evening?
Joan Rubino, 48 North Road. We speak about being more strict with the builder who has all these violations, or I don't know how many he has, but I think it's a little bit late because he's built the whole town up. Is there any property left where he can build? And that's another question. I understand that there's going to be some building behind the bank on Franklin Avenue. Is that true?
That is
same builder?
That is no longer the case.
And he will not be granted permission for what reason?
I don't think that application is pending any longer.
Oh, okay. And if he reinstates or reapplies or whatever, will you look at it in a different light than you have in the past? I mean,
Mr. Rubino, this board doesn't look at any of those buildings. That's zoning and planning boards.
Okay, but you don't have any influence,
No, we do not have any.
No.
We sit as members. Commissioner
Yeah,
Evans
well,
and I
that's
sit
what I
as
mean.
members, but
That's
we
what I
don't
mean.
have any influence over the boards. We're just a voting member.
You're a voting member.
Correct.
So you then do have some influence, it seems. If you're voting on something,
I think it's the way you interpret influence.
well, how do you interpret influence?
Well, having a vote doesn't mean that you're influencing the board.
Well, in other words, you don't have a right to discuss anything while you're at this board, but you are allowed to vote? Is that what you're saying?
You listen to the testimony provided by both sides, your side, the experts on your side, the experts on the developer's side, and then you weigh and balance how you're going to vote on that application.
Okay, so
based on the law.
But you do not participate, that's what you're saying, discussion.
You ask questions.
You can.
Ask questions of the experts.
Oh, okay.
But there's no back and forth between the members.
All right, very good, thank you. Oh, one more thing.
Sure.
Now, when this particular person pays his fines, how do we find out about that? Is that going to be published in the newspaper, or to make sure that this has been done? and the amount that the person pays, and all of the ramifications of this. How do we
Mr. General
find?
Tempo, you want to shed some light on that?
Mr. Rubino, we're not really close to having a complete resolution. When we do, I think it's going to have to be formally approved by the board, which means that it should be in public.
Okay.
So whether it's in the newspaper or not, I can't answer that question.
Right.
But if this board has to take action,
It will be like in the minutes of the
right,
meeting.
and obviously if it ends up in litigation, you'll be well aware of it. It'll be a public record.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to address the Board of Commissioners this evening? Seeing none, can I have a motion to close the public portion of the meeting?
I make that motion?
Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco? Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. Can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss?
Litigation and contracts.
I make that motion.
Second.
Whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, permits the exclusion of public from meeting in certain circumstances. And whereas the public body is of the opinion that such circumstances exist, and whereas the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Nutley in the County of Essex and State of New Jersey desires to proceed to close executive session, and now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Nutley move into closed executive session to discuss litigation and contracts. Be it further resolved that the time when such discussion may be disclosed to the public shall be when and such disclosure may be made without adversely affecting the Township of Nutley, pending and/or anticipated legal, personnel, contractual matters, and other matters within the exceptions provided for by statute. Commissioner Rogers?
Aye.
Commissioner Evans?
Aye.
Commissioner Petracco?
Aye.
Mayor Scarpelli?
Aye. We will be coming back on the record to close the meeting. No further action will be taken.
The time is 9:20.